Hi, this is Sabrina for Vicarious. I'm sitting here with Scott Lee, our director behind the brand new Forza Motorsport 7. How's it going? Thank you for sitting with us.
Thank you for having me.
I have to say, I like video games. I do like racing games. However, I'm a nemesis because your game is coming out on Xbox and I'm a PlayStation player.
Oh no!
So I'm glad we get to butt heads on this one.
Yeah.
So first of all, the question I have to ask you, as a car girl, which of the cars in the game is your favorite?
Oh man, you're asking me to pick my favorite child.
I know.
This is a tough one. I gotta say, I've driven a lot of games in Forza. I was a big Forza fan before I was working on it, and I've driven many of the cars before. Some of them have come back, some of them gone away. But I gotta say, the cover car is insane.
The Porsche?
Yeah, the Porsche 911 GT2 RS. Because I got to drive it before the world ever got to see it.
Oh my God.
And it was a special treat because, spy photos and all that stuff. I follow all the magazines that got the spy photo of the week and stuff, and you saw it, doing laps around the NURB, and you went, oh my God. And when I finally got to drive it, that thing's a beast.
No kidding.
It's insane.
How does that happen? How big of a deal is that?
That is about as big a deal as I think the gaming industry's seen. It's a special relationship between us and Porsche. We have a brand new partnership that's a multi-year deal, and we kind of expected obviously to feature a lot of their cars in our game, which is super exciting. But they actually kind of came up and offered up their brand new, the most anticipated car release in a very, very long time. And gave us a CAD design for it and everything. So basically, we had it. We started building it virtually as they were developing the car physically, almost at the same time, which is kind of crazy. And of course, we got to reveal it to the world.
Exactly. That's
at
what
E3.
I was going to say.
I think this is a real milestone for the industry as a whole. Being able to go to a show like E3 and reveal a car and really kind of cross-pollinate the two worlds. It's a real first, and I think it kind of shows where video games have come.
That's amazing.
I think big companies like auto manufacturers realize that the video game audience is their audience too.
Absolutely, 100%, especially with racing games. Like it's how you get to live vicariously.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's a perfect
to
word.
kind of like link it back. So for just, to kind of summarize it a little bit, for people who are not familiar with Forza, what's the game? What's pretty much like just a little overview of what the game
for sure.
is?
Forza Motorsport 7 is obviously the 7th iteration of Forza. The Forza franchise has a sister game as well, Forza Horizon, and it is the most popular video game series for racing in the entire world. We have over 5 million monthly active users across all our games. The latest version, Forza Motorsport 7, features over 700 cars, over 300 drivers, 32 tracks and 200 ribbons, different times of day, different weather conditions, all dynamic. And that adds up to the biggest racing game ever made, and I can easily say it because nobody else really comes close. I'm tired from building it, by the way. So
I can imagine.
Physically.
And I've even read that the if it rained in the game, then if the car splashes into a puddle, the puddle is going to become bigger. There's kind of that algorithm for making the game so realistic.
It's a real kind of novel system, and something that is a big philosophy for Forza. We make video games, and video games have weather, and they have times of day and things like that, and it's an impression of what you might see in real life. We're well known for being as realistic a game as you've ever seen, and this it looks quite incredible, if I must say. But really, a little pat on the shoulder there. What we really wanted to express was how it feels to race, right? And what a race car driver experiences, the limitations, and then opportunities, and all these things really come from the sun moving across the sky, the clouds covering the sun over a certain lap. You go through that lap, it's flat, and your visibility is not great.
Right.
You turn the corner, you come back around that lap, and the sun's broken, and you have your opportunity to pass. This is what real race car drivers experience, and this is what we want to give you: a minute by minute, lap by lap dynamism that you've never really seen in a video game. And the same goes for weather. If you see the dark clouds kind of forming in the horizon, you know that rain's going to come soon.
Right.
So you better make some passes before it starts raining, because you're going to wipe out. You start booting it. You start seeing the flecks of rain on the windshield. Your automatic windshield wipers start going. Okay, it's going to get worse, right? You start sliding a bit. Then it's a torrential downpour. Then it's thunder. Then the puddles that were this big are now this big, and you're slipping and sliding. You got to be conservative, wait for it to break. You see a little bit of the sun peeking out. Now you go, because by then the puddles are going to shrink. So, you know, yes, you can have weather in the game. Yes, you can dramatize whatever, but ours really is made for the driving experience.
Okay, and do you think that's what made, because you mentioned earlier, like Forza is like the biggest racing game right now in the market, and do you think it's that level of realism, that level of detail that really makes the game so popular?
I think so. You know, it's an attention to detail that we're quite psychotic about. You know, it's funny because people might think, hey, you're overdoing it. You know, the textures that we have in the 4K version of our game, mind you, our game runs at 60 frames per second locked, and it's in 4K and HDR. It is the first game in the world to do something like this, and we thought, you know, it's perfect for the racing genre. You know, visibility, you know, spatial awareness is everything, right? You live and die by this, and so when you look at the textures of the road in Forza Motorsport 7, they're insane. If you put your camera, and you can do this in the game, we have some photo modes. If you go and zoom right into the road when it's raining, you will see water puddling around the pebbles in the rocks. And people would ask, why would you do that when you're racing by it at 100 miles an hour? Well, yeah, but you're going to see it if you crash your car. Yeah, because you can. And if you crash your car and you sit there and going, what the hell happened? Well, you're going to be able to take a good look at it, right?
So whether you're on the track or off the track, not where you're supposed to be, there's still the same level of detail.
It is everywhere. And mind you, it's really because we want to immerse you in the fantasy, right? Like this is, the minute you have a single thing in the game that breaks that fantasy, it ruins it. At least it ruins it for me. And so we won't have it.
That's fair. I think, as you put it, it's that attention to detail that really kind of like makes the game so popular. So you have to be up there. You have to be up to par, because there's always going to be people who will find to complain. So
for sure.
And absolutely.
The competition is high. Yeah, exactly.
And so, okay, so with that level of realism in mind, I imagine that you have to do the same with the cars. For instance, we're talking earlier about the GT2. How much do you have to stick to the reality of a model? Like, how precise do you have to be?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Now, people probably wonder, are they exactly real, or is the scale proper? Not only do we have a commitment to making cars look great and making sure that they're as authentic as possible, but we actually have a legal obligation with all the licensors, because we obviously create cars that exist in real life, to make everything correct. That means if there's a screw that has the wrong head shape under the hood where it's bolting on to, they will tell you and they will make you fix it. It's something that we're so utterly perfect. Everything is perfect, and right down to the materials. Porsche, they absolutely demand that the contrast stitching color for the Alcantara and the steering wheel is absolutely correct, and something that they offer in their catalogs. And it's something that, you know what, I love it. I love that they're such sticklers for detail. It's the reason why their cars are so amazing, and that's why our game is amazing as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so how is it just based off, for instance, the manufacturer's catalog, or do you actually have teams going in and measuring the cars that are going to be in the game? Like, how do you pull that off, that level of detail?
It's actually both. So we do visit all the factories. We actually had CAD data, which is real 3D data that they use, the manufacturers use to build their cars. We get that data. It's highly secretive. It's unbelievably sensitive data. Obviously, we have to protect it. In the case of the GT2 RS, which was, again,
Yeah.
You know, we had spy photographers and helicopters trying to chase that car around the NERB, and we had a secret photo shoot months and months before it was revealed for the first completed car. This was a prototype. That was the first one that was painted and ready for production, and they saw helicopters flying in, and then they had to cover it and wait until everybody was cleared. They had to send up like security and stuff. Once it was, then we took thousands of pictures of it. We obviously have the CAD data, but when it comes to materials and things, we have to recreate that. So all these pictures were taken. Unfortunately, I wasn't lucky enough to go on that trip. I was too busy, but it was quite amazing. And we sat there just staring at the pictures and went, oh my God, I can't believe we're looking at it. It's a pretty special treat. Yeah.
No kidding, no kidding. So in that regards, when it comes to designing a video game, especially of that level, what's the biggest challenge?
You know, I think there's a lot of challenges to making big AAA games, but in the case of Forza, it really is the scope of it all. It is so huge. You know, having to build 700 cars to the level of detail that we absolutely need to do. You know, having 32 tracks in locations all over the world, having to, you know, recreate realistic weather and real skies and things like that. All that stuff really kind of adds to just an incredible scope of things.
Right.
The volume of work we have to do is kind of daunting. You know, I don't even know how we pulled it off. I barely slept, but it's quite a challenge and something that, you know, this team is just unbelievably good at. You know, it's something that that very few teams in the world can do.
So, 700 cars, 32 tracks, and please say how long you had to work on the game.
2 years, and that is daunting. I come from the video game industry, from other parts of the video game industry. We made big open world games, famous ones that are huge and have, you know, immense amounts of content. The entire world from a large open world shooter game will fit 3 times inside of one track. One track in Forza. That's how physically big our games are. Because you got to drive, you know, we measure it to our fastest car.
Okay.
So if you drive in the fastest car that you have, it could be like an LMP1 car, a race car. You get in it, and the thing is just insane. The world is whipping by you, and the world has to stream properly. Everything has to be there.
Absolutely.
And you know, you need to experience the thing the same way if you're in a 63 bug, and putt too. It's you know,
What's that? What's the noise of the 63 bug?
Putt, the last time I heard.
I will be quoting that.
All you bug owners out there.
Yeah, exactly. So just to get back to the, you know, how precise you have to be in the cars, do you still allow yourself, you know, a lot of video games, they're going to do that sometimes also in movies and such. Do you allow yourself Easter eggs for users to discover throughout the game?
Oh, that's a good question. We don't physically because, you know, we have a lot of, licensing issues and things like this. And obviously, you know, companies like Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, they're you know, they covet their brand and they should, as they should.
Right.
And so, you know, with that, you can't take leeway. That being said, our community can do whatever the heck they want, which is great. And our community is the most dedicated, the most talented bunch of people ever. You know, they're all car guys, they're artists, they're all kinds of people. And you can create your own liveries in our game. And it's one of the best features in our game. So you can go in and you know, choose from all sorts of different shapes and things. And they create the most craziest paint jobs ever. And you apply it, and they're able to kind of offer it up to the community as well, and people choose their favorites and things, and you know, it's pretty amazing. So yeah, the answer is you can go nuts.
Okay,
with
so
the customization
users will create the Easter eggs. You
we
guys kind of have.
enable them the ability to do that.
You open the door.
Exactly.
And you let them step through.
Exactly.
I get it. I have to ask you
Yeah.
to the same level of, you know, what's your favorite car in the game? Are you more of a car guy or a video game guy or both or neither?
Yeah, that's a good question. My feeling is that if you don't love what you do and you have a real passion for it, I don't think you could ever be great at it.
Right.
You could be good at it maybe,
can get
but I don't
away.
think you can be great at it. I would say I'm definitely more a car guy than I am video. If I had to choose one,
Okay.
it's cars. Cars and bikes. It's my life. Like ever since I was a kid, I draw them all the time. I collected sticker books. I had lots of different books on it and stuff. I built cars, built bikes, nonstop. Crashed them, flipped them. Whatever else. Yeah, absolutely. It's my passion, and one of the reasons why I came to Turn 10 when the opportunity came up really was that for the first time in my life, I was going to meld my primary hobby with my job, which I never really thought would happen because my job is video games, and I made shooters. I don't shoot things a whole lot, so it's not necessarily a passion of mine. So doing something like this, especially a game that's really kind of accessible and it's all ages, and it's something that everyone really plays. I thought this was a real kind of cool thing to do.
We talked about the car you prefer in the game. Now, what car is currently not in game? Well, like there are still 700 cars in the game, but what car that's currently not in the game that you'd like to see in the next edition?
Man, that's a good question. 700. I'm thinking about all these cars. I'll tell you what. Like my exact car is actually not in the game, and it bugs me a little bit.
Okay.
Everybody else's car, like a lot of guys at work are car guys, and a lot of their cars are in the game.
Right, so they have
here's a little interesting tidbit, probably nobody would know otherwise, is that we have an opening shot in the beginning of the game where we have a little video and we show our home space, which is a cool garage, and we have all these cars lined up. There's like a McLaren and like a Audi R8 V10 Plus, and there's like Mustang GT350 and stuff like that all lined up. And they all belong to people who work in the office.
Really?
Like, everybody has one. And I went, where the heck's my car? I'm your boss. Why did you not put my car in there? He goes,
You're the art director.
I know.
Why didn't you make it happen?
Because your exact car is not exactly in there. That's why. And I really kind of went,
Are you allowed to say what's the car?
Sure. I drive a 911.
Okay.
Yeah, a 991 911. That's one of the newer ones, but it's simple. It is a real basic sports car with a stick shift and no doodads on it. I love it. Yeah.
So you're telling me that you got the GT2, but not the basic?
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could get the GT Taurus. Yeah, just throw in another $300,000 and sure, I'll do it.
And so I started off the interview by saying that I'm on PlayStation. You want to sell me your game. How do you sell me your game? How do you tell me, you know what? Come over to the dark side and play our game. Get an Xbox and play Forza. How do you sell the game?
That is a good question. I've been doing the press tour for our game for a little while and had lots of interviews. And I've had PlayStation aficionados who love the PlayStation game. I won't name it. Version of that game, and they've come to me and they've said, you know what, this for the first time ever, I think I'm going to jump and I'm going to buy your game.
Nice.
And I'll tell you why. I think it really is us, committing to improving our game year after year. The Forza series really is one that's really kind of committed to the motorsport world. It's not just, we don't just recreate racing, but we try to make you feel, like a car collector and make you feel like you have the freedom to do whatever you want. It's kind of unprecedented. And, with us and the Horizon series kind of coming back one after the other, we're always kind of leapfrogging the last one. Right. And really the quality bar we've set with this game is something that I'm so impressed by, especially because I was a fan of the game before.
Right.
I was a fan of all racing games, and I bought multiple different racing games as well. This one is different and special, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Nice. And so you've been mentioning, we've been talking about Motorsport 7. And then you mentioned there's kind of like the sister product, which is Horizon. What are the main differences between the two?
That's a very good question. Forza Horizon is much more free-flowing. It's an open-world game.
Oh, okay.
So the objective is to just get from place to place rather than having to race.
Put those cars on roads instead of racetracks.
Exactly, and you know that game gives you a different feeling, and we want it to be that way. You know, we don't want you know the experience to be the same thing. It's about driving, but being able to be foolish and do whimsical things in that game. For motorsport, it's really about competition, and you know that's where we break the line. Horizon also is a 30 frame per second game, like other open world games are. So you get a little, you know, you get a little more stylization, you get a little more of that. With us, at 60 frames a second, we are trying to replicate real life in every way. So you know, we don't break that fantasy with anything that doesn't feel like it's actually happening. Mind you, you can have tons of fun and crazy stuff happens.
Absolutely.
But it feels totally realistic.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so what's the next step? Like you're talking now like 4K and like crazy resolutions.
Yeah.
What's the next step? How do you keep the game interesting, exciting? What's the next step? Like VR?
Yeah.
Like where are you going?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, you know, I get asked the question of VR all the time. It's the obvious killer app for it, like driving. I gotta say, I've tried VR driving games, and to me, the technology is not exactly there to immerse me yet. You know, Forza is known for our graphics fidelity, just how realistic things look, and if you ran it in VR, you know, we'd lose that, and I think that's a bit of a deal breaker at the moment. But it's something that we definitely, you know, we're exploring for sure. But for us, I mean, yes, you know, 60 frames per second, 4K, HDR. No game's ever done this before. What is the next step? You know, I feel like making things so high fidelity and so realistic has afforded us an opportunity to kind of look beyond the visual look of it. I'm looking at feeling, you know, does it feel dangerous to race? Because these people risk their lives, and I want you to feel that. I want you to feel it. And we've added a lot of things in Forza Motorsport 7 to really kind of bolster that. We call it driving thrill, and its cameras just like, you know, shaking as, you know, it's tied completely to your velocity. You go over bumps and the camera's going to go crazy. You hit a wall and your head's going to be in your lap. You know, all the parts in your car shake and shimmy, and you know, straps are flapping in the breeze. You know, these are things that really add to the feeling of terminal velocity and how you get that tunnel vision when you're going at like crazy speeds, right? And you guys get to do it in real life all the time. But you know, a lot of our fans will never. Yeah, it's like a lot of real life, you know, like fans will never get to experience that in real life. And we want to give you that thrill, right? And I think, you know, us kind of exploring everything else outside of motorsport, like the motorsport world, but not necessarily racing, is something that I'm really keen on exploring. You know, everybody's felt those pangs when they want this car and go, oh my God, it costs this much money. What are you going to do? Like, it's such a thrilling feeling, right? Like when I buy the minute I buy a car, I'm looking at exhaust, right? And I'm looking at catalogs and go, oh, should I get this one or this one? Like, it's such an engaging, entertaining experience that people are very that relate to really well.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, it's something that's still missing from our genre, and it's something that I really want to nail. You know, I want the whole breadth of what it feels like to you know, make a car, customize that car, show it off. You show it off to your friends, go to a show and shine. You know, these things are things that can happen in video games, and I'm keen on making that happen.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds really exciting. You might have convinced me to give it a shot. Maybe you have. Maybe you have. Well, this is fantastic. That sounds amazing, especially like that 4K resolution, because you were saying that the 4K is coming with the Xbox One.
Xbox One X?
One X, yes. I'm sorry, yes,
yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
Sorry, yeah, PlayStation here, right?
Yeah, exactly. You did that on purpose.
I did. I was testing you. I just wanted to check whether you were following. So that's gonna be interesting to see also how people get to experience that at home.
Yeah.
Because now, as you mentioned, like they got to, especially with the launch of the game, they got to see it like during the event, but eventually when the new console comes out, they'll get to see it from home. So that's going to be interesting to think back to get as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be like the thing this Christmas, and everybody's going to want to, you know, a lot of people have been buying 4K TVs lately, and there isn't a lot to show on it. you might be showing like some Blu-rays of nature shows or something like that.
Right.
These are basically the only things available in 4K right now.
Right.
And to actually play an immersive game like that in 4K is quite the experience. It's something that that really every single person who's come to see it for the first time is just utterly blown away by it.
What's a detail that surprised you most that you had to think of when it came to either driving at high speeds or on the roads, or like the weather element? Like, what element you had to think of to kind of add to the how real the game is? What element you had to throw in the game that surprised you most?
Sure, yeah. For me, it really is particle effects, and particle effects are what we call like the tire smoke and dust flowing across the road and things like that. That is the fine layer that really adds, ambient movement and life and even an added sense of speed. If our Dubai track is a brand new track for Forza Motorsport 7, and it has elements of the Hafid Pass and desert roads and all these different things. So you go through mountains, you go through flat desert, and once you get into the desert portion, the desert's kind of encroaching on the roads.
Right,
we were in Dubai. We spent a week there taking thousands of pictures, laser scanning roads and things like this there, and that's exactly what happens. Their roads disappear once a wind blows through it, and it's amazing. And we try to replicate that. And for my personal thing is tire smoke. Tire smoke really, honestly, hasn't been done well in video games. We did it pretty well this go.
So it's part of those elements that are hard to replicate, like
everybody
water,
loves to burn
hair,
out. Everybody loves to burn out. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Well, I want to thank you so much because this is so much fun. I really love all the information you had to give about the game because this sounds fantastic. So thank you so much for your time today, Scott. And thanks a lot for watching, everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.